They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Now they're eating the Steelers running backs. You're trying to figure out if you need to pick up CPAT. And today we're going to deep dive Cordarrelle Patterson to see whether or not he's worth it to pick up off the waiver wire. Najee Harris banged up. Jaylen Warren banged up. And now we gotta go with the 33-year-old running back who has experience in Arthur Smith's system to see whether or not we need him for fantasy football. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now because we're doing these deep dives every day on the top waiver wire players, the trending players, the guys rising up the depth chart. We're also talking about the waiver wire in a lot of videos. And on top of that, we're using these videos to help you set your lineup. Click that button. Stop missing out. But Najee Harris is in a sling. He's injured. Will he play? Will he not play? I guarantee you more news will roll out, but right now, he's injured, he's hurt. There are probabilities that he's not going to be out there, but there's also probabilities that he could be limited as well. And then Jaylen Warren's getting an MRI, so that could lend to more opportunities for Cordarrelle Patterson. And you're looking at this running back depth chart, it is banged up, and CPAT is a player that a lot of people are looking at right now. He has not been productive this year. But in week 3, we had 4 rushing attempts, but saw 5 targets in the passing game, catching 3 balls for 15 yards. And he's still looking okay, running the ball between the tackles, showing a little bit of spark out there. But remember, back in the day, coming out for the NFL draft, first round pick, good size, adjusted athleticism, has that speed. Now he's older. You want to scale that back a little bit, of course, but he still runs with a little bit of pop to the step. And you're looking at the waiver wire rankings per Fantasy Pros, ranked 4th among running backs, and the reason is the opportunity of this week because he could be in line for touches. He could be in line for opportunity, and opportunity is half the battle, and getting touches is what amounts to fantasy points, because if you're not touching the ball, you can't score fantasy points. And he's done it in the past, but it's been since 2022 since he was productive. In 2023, a little bit of flashes. You saw him on the field a little bit, stealing a little bit of workload from Bijan and company, really making your head scratch week to week with them Falcons. 2022, 2021, he was productive, and there were spurts where he wasn't productive throughout his career and spurts where he was. He's just an off and on type of player, and that's really just who he is. But we're looking at this backfield, we're looking at the opportunities. Najee Harris on the season at 36% opportunity share. If he's gone, that's zapped, and that's got to go to somebody. At least a lot of it has to go to somebody, and that could be Cordarrelle Patterson. Jaylen Warren's getting an MRI. That sounds like you're not suiting up. 11% of the opportunities. Not many touches per game, and some of those have to go to Cordarrelle Patterson because Najee Harris can't get more workload since he's already banged up. So Cordarrelle Patterson, one way, shape, or forms, getting more touches. Is it going to be enough to be fantasy relevant? Who knows? But we're also seeing Najee Harris carrying the ball 55 times in 3 games, 3.8 yards per carry. CPAT, even though it's just 10 carries, 4.9. When you look at the tape, though, from last week's game against the Chargers, he did have a little bit of juice between the tackles. Maybe that could be enough to allow the offense to move a little bit more efficiently and effectively. This team likes to run the football. They're second in the league in rushing attempts per game. 37 runs a game on average. And don't forget about Justin Fields. He takes up a lot of those rushing attempts. 14 in week 1, 8 in week 2, 6 against the Chargers last week. But he's good for 6 to 10 rush attempts, if not more per game. Really depends on the flow of the game and the game script. Go watch his tape. I have it posted on my Twitter, and this is when he's pressured, but he's quick to get it out to the outlet right now here in Pittsburgh, which means the outlet could be Cordarrelle Patterson if he's out there, which means he could get the ball in space in some of these dropbacks. So Justin Fields is whipping it out, getting it to the guy underneath, the guy in the flat, or throwing it out of bounds a lot when he's pressured. That's what we saw against the Chargers. And looking at Cordarrelle Patterson's touches, he started getting his carries in the 4th quarter against the Chargers, but he was using the passing game a lot more in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd quarters. That being said, if one of these or both of these running backs are out, he's going to see more carries. more opportunities in the run game, which could lead to more opportunities in the passing game as well. And he's very good in the passing game. He was a wide receiver to start things off, converted him back and forth from running back to wide receiver, used out in the flat a lot. He's a player that you can move around a good bit to get those opportunities. Najee Harris was getting touches deep into the fourth quarter. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays this week. I don't know much about his injury. I have to hang out with him to know a lot about it, so I just don't know. But if you're hoping glass half full, he did play deep into the fourth quarter. That's just something to look at, something to note. Jaylen Warren, on the other hand, I think the odds are not looking good for him. The word MRI sounds not too good, not getting many carries in this matchup, but you look at the schedule going forward, and you have to take it game by game. The Cowboys allow a lot of points to running backs, but the Colts, that's who they have on the road this week coming up, and they allowed 26.8 PPR fantasy points to Joe Mixon, 15.1 to Josh Jacobs, 10.2 to Roschon Johnson, 6.2 to DeAndre Swift. So there is opportunities for Cordarrelle Patterson to score fantasy points here if he sees a good opportunity share, if he gets a good workload. The Colts are about average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to running backs, but there is opportunity for him to score you a 10 spot in your lineup, and that's what I would probably guess what would happen in this matchup if they were using Cordarrelle Patterson as the main running back, as their feature guy. He might get a little bit more if he pops off or hits the goal line, but on average, he's probably going to get enough carries, probably around 8 to 10. He'll probably catch a few balls, probably catch like 4 to 5, and he'll probably add up to around 10 fantasy points. Give a little, take a little. That's what would be my prediction. But for you don't want him because you're good. You're not interested in Cordarrelle Patterson. Not the type of player for you. You're good at running back. You're all right. You don't need to stash him. He's not a stash play for the long term. He's a guy that you need touches for the now. If you need touches at running back right now, there's a good chance he gets it this week. If Najee Harris is in, he's not going to see a huge workload. I could be wrong on that, but if he's in, it's going to be reduced to somewhat. And if the Steelers get the lead and Anthony Richardson's playing bad again, that means there's going to be more touches in the fourth quarter and the second half. Cordarrelle Patterson is a player to pay attention to. You do not absolutely need him. You don't absolutely need him for your fantasy team. If I'm good at running back, I'm looking the other way. I'm looking for running backs who have more long-term upside for the season. If I need touches right now, then I'm just picking up touches. That's all I'm looking at Cordarrelle Patterson as. Touches for the now. I'm hoping that Najee's out and Jaylen Warren's out. Not actually hoping. I hope they're doing well and they're okay. But for fantasy football, I'm hoping that they're not getting touches. Let's say it in that light so I'm not sounding all weird. That I can use Cordarrelle Patterson. Hopefully some of these touches lead to fantasy points and some production. He is used in the passing game. He does have experience in Arthur Smith's system. That being said, he can just be thrown out there and get the job done. Maybe good enough to keep you afloat to go into week 5. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.